Welcome back to the channel. I thought I'd talk to you from the park today because it's nice and sunny out, and just as a heads up, I have a partner for this video as well, NordVPN, but more about them a little bit later. You've probably heard it reported by now that Prince Harry is coming back to the UK for the allegations of phone hacking in this upcoming trial against the newspapers. And there are two very important things that I would like to talk about in this video. First of all, what the phone hacking could actually mean and what it might not mean. And secondly, the implications that it might have on the rest of the media if these allegations are found to be true. Because first of all, if these allegations are true and journalists were engaged in any kind of unlawful information gathering, then this will obviously have a knock-on and consequential effect for everybody in the industry and probably result in much stricter codes of practice and guidelines and regulations and these kind of things that these journalists will have to abide by. Because indeed, in any case where there are founded allegations such as these, it will undoubtedly result in a much stricter code of practice. This is the sort of reason that the Consumer Rights Act came about in the first place, because many companies were just not complying with the law as it then was, which was then later codified into the Consumer Rights Act, to give consumers rights to uphold their position of a contract, implying those terms into the contract to make them apply whether the trader wanted to or not, and giving the consumers the right to enforce those terms. So I believe that if these allegations are found out to be true, there's going to be a significant knock-on effect for legislation, new legislation, to deal with such phone allegations, hacking allegations, to make such cases very much easier to deal with. But that is not the only question in this case, because one of the questions that obviously will need to be addressed is whether the allegations themselves of hacking per se are actually founded. Because what do we mean by hacking? Well, hacking could include any kind of unlawful activity to do with your phone, your iPad, your computers, or anything else, which may not actually be the conventional kind of hacking that you would think of, such as using sort of brute force or malicious computer access. It might simply be the use of your password and access of your account without your permission. Because in fact, one thing many people might not know is that it is actually an offence to connect to a Wi-Fi without permission of the owner of that Wi-Fi network, which is why in many cases you might see that when you join a public Wi-Fi, you will generally have to sign in and accept the terms of use for that Wi-Fi network. But it also means that you're consenting to their terms and conditions, but it also means that you're connecting to it with their permission. Now, as mentioned earlier, just a brief mention of my partner for this video, NordVPN. As you recall, I've spoken a lot about allegations of phone hacking made by Prince Harry and others against various journalists in my recent videos. But hacking, as alleged, is not unique to Harry or anyone else involved in that claim for that matter. Hacking in this sort of form or any kind of form can happen to anybody, particularly if you are in, let's say, a public cafe using public Wi-Fi. There are all sorts of different attacks that can be made against you, as in your phone, your laptop or iPad or Android device or any other thing that connects to the internet. One such attack, known as IP spoofing, this is where cyber criminals can pretend to use the IP address of a website that you are visiting and makes your device think that it's the correct website. You won't necessarily know because it might well look exactly the same. Another type, which is probably one of the most common, is called Wi-Fi eavesdropping, which is a type of man-in-the-middle attack, whereby if you connect to a public Wi-Fi, or sometimes it will be a fake Wi-Fi, they will be collecting information that is passed from your computer, intercepting that data, decrypting that data, and then using it, for example, to log into your bank accounts. Imagine for a moment that you've just stopped for coffee somewhere, maybe at an airport or maybe out shopping. You've logged into your email, responded to a few messages, and then off you go. Little did you know that you may have fallen victim to one of these man-in-the-middle attacks where they've taken your password and then they go into your email and have access to virtually everything that uses your email as a verification. One way of helping you to avoid all of these kind of risks is to use a VPN, which is a virtual private network. NordVPN allows you to do just that. You can install it on each of your devices, up to 6 devices with a single account. It will block malicious sites if you are redirected to another site instead of the one that you want to visit, which is actually, in fact, malicious and trying to steal your data. But also ensure that your online activities, whether it's with your email or with your bank, is all secure. Particularly important if you are using public Wi-Fi. So if you are out and about, whether you travel for work or you're just out for coffee somewhere and you want to connect to the internet, we've all used our phone to connect to a public Wi-Fi at some stage because you need a better connection, because wherever you are, you don't have a very good connection. Not only that, NordVPN will help to block web trackers which will gather and collect your information, which in turn will get sold on to other parties, helping to protect your identity and keep your information safe. There are lots of other features built into NordVPN as well, such as malware protection, which will scan software, and a data breach scanner, which will scan what's known as the dark web for your information, such as passwords, emails, credit card details that may have been leaked onto other websites that are available to nefarious actors who are trying to steal your identity and maybe even take out loans in your name. So I'm very pleased to be able to offer you an exclusive discount at my link, which is on screen and in the description below. You can sign up for an exclusive discount with NordVPN. It has a 30-day money-back guarantee if you're not happy with the service, but for a very small price, it is certainly worth it for that peace of mind. And I can genuinely tell you that I've used NordVPN for several years now, and it gives me that peace of mind. So please do check out the exclusive discount in the description below. You'll be supporting me and my partner. And in the meantime, back to the video. And so back to talking about unauthorized use of computers and phone systems and this kind of thing. Very often in family cases, I've heard of parties take someone else's phone and access it without their permission just because they know the password or they know the voicemail pin or something like that. So in fact, this very well might be something that is argued in these allegations for phone hacking in the Prince Harry trial, because accessing a voicemail with the PIN, just because somebody knew the PIN, might be considered unauthorized use of that device, which could constitute hacking in the legal technical sense. Whilst it may not be the same kind of technical access via some code or script or virus or brute hacking method and something like that, it is still unauthorized access. And so bearing in mind that if you access someone else's voicemail or account or something like that without their permission, then there are all sorts of offences involved here, not least of which the Computer Misuse Act of 1990, which makes various offences for the unauthorised access of any computer material. Under Section 1, a person is guilty of an offence if he causes a computer to perform any function with the intent to secure access to any program or data held in the computer, or to enable any such access to be secured. That being the case, if the access he intends to secure is unauthorized and he knows at the time when he causes the computer to perform that function that that is the case. So in other words, anybody accessing information, material on a computer without authorization is committing an offence by doing so. And that will apply even if it's just a friend of yours or family member of yours. If you are doing that without their permission, without their consent, that is unauthorised use of computer material and is an offence under this Act. And also don't forget, in family cases, this is quite a prevalent issue because partners have very often, in my experience, tried to access each other's phones, each other's emails, to try to get evidence of communication or what they've been saying, and any of those unauthorized access could be committing an offence. Now, whilst the family court doesn't necessarily take the offence itself into question, it obviously will take into account the behaviour of the parties and may hold that against the party if they've been doing that without their permission. Much like recordings of conversations that are taken without consent of all concerned. Not necessarily strictly illegal, but courts obviously don't approve of such things. But in some cases where it really does prove a very contentious point within the case, we have had instances of the entire transcript being heard and read out for the court to consider. So as with all matters, you really need to think carefully about your phone, your access, who has access, who you've granted access to. And if you are accessing someone else's, then think very carefully, because you can be committing an offence by accessing something without their authorization, which in the very broad sense might be considered phone hacking. So as always, if I find out any more about this case, or as I find out more about this case, I'll come back to update you. Please remember to like this video and subscribe. Enjoy the sun if it's sunny where you are, and in the meantime, thank you for watching.